Ladies and gentlemen, let's take a moment to get real. Not surface level real, but deep down, gut level honest. Because today we're going to talk about something that's holding too many of us back, being soft in ways that don't serve us or the people we care about. Now, before you misunderstand me, I'm not talking about kindness. Kindness is strength. I'm not talking about compassion, that's the bedrock of connection. I'm talking about the kind of soft where you shrink yourself to avoid conflict. Let your boundaries dissolve to make others comfortable, or bite your tongue when you know you should speak your truth. We've all been there, haven't we? The moment someone crosses a line, but instead of saying something, we smile and let it slide. The times we've been stretched too thin, but said yes anyway, because we didn't want to disappoint. That kind of softness doesn't make you noble. It leaves you depleted, resentful, and disconnected from others, and worse, from yourself. But here's the truth, friends. The world doesn't need more people who avoid hard conversations. The world doesn't need more people who play small or people who let fear masquerade as politeness. The world needs more people willing to stand in their truth with courage. And courage isn't comfortable. It's not easy. Courage is about choosing what's right over easy. It's about setting boundaries and sticking to them, even when it's awkward or uncomfortable. It's about saying no when your heart says no, and yes when your soul says yes, even if it might upset someone else. Now, some of you might be thinking, but won't people think I'm mean, harsh, selfish? Let me tell you something. Holding firm to your values is not selfish, it's essential. Boundaries are not walls to keep people out. They're the fences that protect what matters most inside of you. Courageous people, those who are clear about who they are and what they stand for, are not cruel. They are kind, honest, and deeply authentic. But they don't confuse being kind with being a doormat. They don't confuse being vulnerable with being weak. So, I challenge you, stop apologizing for having standards. Stop tiptoeing around people's feelings at the expense of your own integrity. Stop handing over your power in an effort to keep the peace. Instead, lean into the discomfort. Lean into the messy, hard, vulnerable conversations. Will it feel risky? Yes. Will it feel awkward? Absolutely. But the alternative is far worse, a life where you betray yourself over and over to please everyone else. Ladies and gentlemen, you are not here to be liked by everyone. You are here to live a life that's true to who you are. And that life requires bravery. So, stop being soft in the ways that keep you small. Stand tall. Be bold. Speak your truth. And remember, the only thing scarier than being vulnerable is living your whole life without ever trying. Kindness is often misunderstood as being agreeable, passive, or accommodating at all times. But real kindness is not about avoiding conflict or keeping the peace at the expense of your own well-being. True kindness requires strength because it is rooted in authenticity, self-respect, and respect for others. It is not about being soft or letting people walk all over you. Instead, it is about showing up fully as yourself and offering others the same courtesy, even when that means setting boundaries or having hard conversations. We are conditioned to think that being kind means being nice or agreeable, but kindness is so much more nuanced. It's about being honest in a way that honors both your truth and the dignity of the person you are dealing with. Sometimes that honesty is uncomfortable. It might even sting a little, but kindness is not the same as avoiding discomfort. In fact, avoiding discomfort, avoiding the hard truths, or pretending everything is fine is often a disservice to yourself and others. Imagine a friend who consistently takes advantage of your time or energy. You might think you're being kind by not addressing the issue, by letting it slide, or by accommodating them every time. But over time, this pattern doesn't serve either of you. Resentment builds within you, and the relationship becomes strained, even toxic. True kindness in this scenario would mean having a courageous conversation where you gently but firmly explain your boundaries. It might feel awkward or even risky in the moment, but ultimately it respects both your limits and the relationship itself. The strength in kindness lies in its intentionality. It's easy to take the path of least resistance, to say what people want to hear, or to go along with something just to avoid confrontation. But that kind of softness isn't kind, it's self-sacrificing, and it erodes your sense of self over time. Real kindness is about standing in your truth while maintaining compassion for others. It requires the courage to be vulnerable, to risk misunderstanding, and to trust that being honest and authentic is ultimately better for everyone involved. Kindness also involves accountability. It's not about excusing bad behavior or pretending something doesn't hurt when it does. When we avoid addressing problems or fail to hold people accountable, we rob them of the opportunity to grow. Holding someone accountable when done with empathy and clarity is one of the kindest things we can do. It shows that we value the person enough to invest in their growth and that we value ourselves enough to protect our own boundaries. To practice this kind of strength and kindness, we need to let go of the fear of being disliked. Many of us avoid standing up for ourselves because we equate kindness with being liked or accepted. But kindness isn't about approval, it's about integrity. It's about showing up as your authentic self and allowing others to do the same. Setting boundaries is one of the most powerful ways to protect your values, energy, and sense of self. Boundaries are not barriers meant to keep others out. Rather, they are essential guidelines that define what is acceptable and unacceptable in your life. They are a declaration of your worth and a way of communicating your needs and limits to the people around you. Without boundaries, you risk losing yourself in the expectations, demands, and desires of others, which ultimately leads to burnout, resentment, and disconnection. Many people hesitate to set boundaries because they fear being seen as selfish, difficult, or unkind. But the truth is, boundaries are not about rejecting others, they are about protecting what matters most to you. They create clarity in your relationships and help you show up more fully and authentically in the world. When you set a boundary, you are not only honoring your own needs, but also teaching others how to engage with you in a way that is respectful and mutually beneficial. Establishing boundaries requires courage because it often means saying no, which can feel uncomfortable or even confrontational. But saying no to something that doesn't align with your values or capacity is, in many ways, saying yes to yourself. It's a way of prioritizing what truly matters, whether that's your mental health, time, or personal goals. Without boundaries, you can find yourself constantly overcommitted, overextended, and unable to give your best to the things and people that genuinely matter to you. Boundaries also help you build healthier and more meaningful relationships. When you set clear expectations, you remove the guesswork and prevent misunderstandings. For example, if someone repeatedly crosses a line, addressing it with honesty and kindness helps to create a relationship built on trust and respect. People who truly care about you will respect your boundaries, even if they initially struggle with them. Conversely, those who disregard or dismiss your boundaries reveal that they may not have your best interests at heart, and this knowledge can help you make more intentional choices about the people you allow into your life. However, setting boundaries is only part of the equation. The real challenge lies in maintaining them. You must be consistent and firm, even when others push back or when guilt tries to creep in. Every time you compromise your boundaries to appease someone else, you teach them that your limits are negotiable, which can lead to further boundary violations. Maintaining boundaries isn't about being rigid or inflexible. It's about standing firm in your values while remaining open to respectful dialogue. Boundaries are also a vital act of self-care. When you set boundaries, you create space for rest, reflection, and growth. You conserve your energy for the things that align with your purpose and nourish your spirit. By protecting your time and energy, you give yourself the opportunity to show up as the best version of yourself in all areas of your life. Courage means choosing what's right over what's easy, and that choice often comes with discomfort and uncertainty. It's tempting to take the path of least resistance, to go along with what's expected, or to avoid conflict altogether, but those choices often come at the cost of your authenticity and integrity. True courage requires standing firm in your values and beliefs, even when doing so is uncomfortable or unpopular. It's about making decisions that align with who you are and what you stand for, rather than seeking approval or avoiding temporary discomfort. Choosing what's right isn't always straightforward. Often it involves difficult conversations, tough decisions, or stepping into situations where the outcome is uncertain. This is why courage is often misunderstood as the absence of fear. But in reality, courage is not the lack of fear, it's the willingness to move forward despite it. It's about recognizing the fear, the discomfort, and the vulnerability, and choosing to act anyway, because you know it's the right thing to do. Courage shows up in everyday moments. It's speaking up in a meeting when you know your perspective is different from the majority. It's admitting when you've made a mistake instead of deflecting or hiding it. It's standing up for someone who is being treated unfairly, even if it means putting yourself in a vulnerable position. These moments might seem small on the surface, but they are deeply significant because they reflect your commitment to living in alignment with your values. One of the hardest aspects of choosing courage over ease is the fear of judgment or rejection. It's natural to want to be liked, to fit in, and to avoid upsetting others. But courage requires a shift in perspective. It's about prioritizing self-respect over external validation. When you choose what's right over what's easy, you may disappoint people or face criticism, but you gain something far more valuable, the confidence that comes from knowing you stayed true to yourself. Courage also involves taking responsibility for your actions and decisions. It means owning your part in a situation, even when it's uncomfortable to do so. Avoiding accountability might feel easier in the short term, but it erodes trust and self-respect over time. Taking responsibility, on the other hand, fosters growth and builds stronger, more authentic connections with others. Another important aspect of courage is being willing to fail. Doing what's right often means stepping into the unknown, taking risks, and opening yourself up to the possibility of making mistakes. It's not about striving for perfection, but about being willing to try, learn, and grow. Failure is not the opposite of courage. It's a natural part of the process. True courage comes from embracing failure as an opportunity to become stronger and more resilient. Courage also demands consistency. It's not enough to act bravely in one moment if you compromise your values in the next. Courage is a practice, a series of choices made day after day, even when it feels hard or inconvenient. It's the commitment to showing up fully, authentically, and unapologetically, no matter the challenges you face. Stop shrinking yourself to please others, because authenticity matters more than approval. Too often, we fall into the trap of trying to mold ourselves into what others want us to be, believing that their validation will bring us fulfillment or security. We dim our light, silence our voices, and compromise our true selves to fit into spaces that demand conformity. But in doing so, we abandon the very essence of who we are. Shrinking yourself may make others comfortable temporarily, but it comes at the cost of your own joy, integrity, and purpose. When you shrink yourself, you are sending a message to yourself and to the world that your worth is tied to external approval. This belief can be incredibly limiting because it places your sense of value in someone else's hands. You begin to second-guess your thoughts, suppress your opinions, and live in constant fear of being too much or not enough. But here's the truth. No matter how much you try to please others, their approval is fleeting. What truly lasts is the relationship you have with yourself. And when you constantly betray who you are to make others happy, that relationship suffers deeply. Authenticity is not about being liked by everyone. It's about being real, honest, and unapologetically yourself. It's about showing up as the person you were meant to be, not the version of yourself you think others expect. Living authentically requires courage because it means embracing your uniqueness, even if it sets you apart. It means owning your flaws, quirks, and strengths without apology. It means standing firm in your values, even when they clash with those around you. Shrinking yourself doesn't just affect you, it impacts your relationships as well. When you hide your true self, you deprive others of the opportunity to know the real you. Authentic connections can only form when both people show up fully and honestly. Pretending to be someone you're not might create temporary harmony, but it's a fragile foundation. True connection happens when you allow yourself to be seen, even in your imperfections. By shrinking yourself, you build relationships based on a version of you that isn't real. And over time, that disconnect can lead to frustration and loneliness. Living authentically also empowers those around you. When you embrace your true self, you give others permission to do the same. Your authenticity becomes a source of inspiration, showing others that it's possible to live with courage and self-respect. You become a model for what it looks like to honor your truth. And that ripple effect can transform the dynamics of your relationships, your community, and even your workplace. Shrinking yourself also holds you back from realizing your full potential. You are here to make an impact, to share your unique gifts and perspectives with the world. When you play small, you limit what you can contribute and what you can achieve. Authenticity unlocks creativity, passion, and purpose, allowing you to step into your power and live a life that feels meaningful and fulfilling. Hard conversations are one of the most important and necessary parts of building connection, trust, and self-respect. They are the moments where we step into vulnerability, confront discomfort, and address the issues that truly matter. Yet many of us avoid them because they feel messy, awkward, or even intimidating. We worry about saying the wrong thing, hurting someone's feelings, or being misunderstood. But in avoiding these conversations, we miss opportunities to strengthen relationships and create deeper, more meaningful connections. Avoiding hard conversations doesn't make problems disappear. It simply delays the inevitable. Resentments build, misunderstandings grow, and the emotional distance between people increases. What starts as a small issue can snowball into something far larger and more damaging over time. Hard conversations, though uncomfortable in the moment, are acts of care. They show that you value the relationship enough to address the tough topics instead of sweeping them under the rug. They are the bridge to resolution, understanding, and growth. Trust is built on honesty, and honesty requires courage. When you have the courage to speak your truth, you demonstrate to others that you are someone they can rely on to be real and forthright. This doesn't mean being harsh or unkind, it means being authentic and respectful. Hard conversations are not about winning an argument or proving a point. They are about creating clarity, repairing harm, and strengthening bonds. Even when emotions run high, approaching the conversation with empathy and a genuine desire to understand can turn a potential conflict into an opportunity for connection. Having hard conversations also helps you build self-respect. When you avoid saying what needs to be said, you betray yourself. You suppress your feelings, invalidate your needs, and compromise your values for the sake of temporary peace. Over time, this erodes your confidence and leaves you feeling frustrated and powerless. On the other hand, when you face a difficult situation head-on, you affirm your own worth. You show yourself that your thoughts, feelings, and boundaries matter, and that you are capable of handling challenging moments with grace and integrity. Hard conversations also teach us important lessons about vulnerability. To truly connect with someone, you have to be willing to be seen, to let your guard down and share what's real, even if it feels risky. Vulnerability is the birthplace of trust, and trust is the foundation of any meaningful relationship. When you open yourself up in a hard conversation, you create space for the other person to do the same. This mutual exchange of honesty and vulnerability deepens the connection and builds a stronger foundation for the future. These conversations also provide opportunities for personal growth. They push you out of your comfort zone and challenge you to articulate your feelings, listen actively, and navigate complex dynamics. Each time you have a hard conversation, you build resilience and develop the skills needed to handle future challenges. Over time, what once felt daunting becomes a tool for empowerment and connection. Living true to yourself is worth the discomfort of vulnerability, because authenticity is the foundation of a meaningful and fulfilling life. When you prioritize being true to who you are, you may encounter moments of uncertainty, risk, or fear, but those moments are necessary for growth and genuine connection. Vulnerability is not a weakness, it is the ultimate act of courage. It requires showing up as your real, imperfect self and being open to the possibility of rejection or failure, all while knowing that the alternative, a life led behind a mask, is far more damaging. Choosing to live authentically means embracing the fact that not everyone will understand or accept you. This realization can be difficult to face, but it is freeing. The need for external validation can keep you trapped in a cycle of people-pleasing and self-suppression, where you prioritize others' expectations over your own truth. Vulnerability breaks this cycle. It allows you to show up fully, even if doing so feels uncomfortable or risky, because you recognize that your worth is not dependent on others' approval. Living authentically means being at peace with who you are and knowing that you don't need to be perfect to be worthy of love and belonging. When you lean into vulnerability, you give yourself permission to take risks, speak your truth, and pursue what truly matters to you. Vulnerability opens the door to experiences that bring purpose and joy, but it also comes with the possibility of failure or rejection. These moments of discomfort are not signs that you are doing something wrong. They are evidence that you are living boldly and authentically. Growth does not happen in comfort zones, and vulnerability is the path that pushes you toward becoming the person you are meant to be. Authenticity is also the key to building meaningful relationships. True connection happens when you allow yourself to be seen for who you really are, without pretense or facade. When you embrace vulnerability, you create space for others to do the same. You build relationships rooted in trust, understanding, and mutual respect. While this openness may sometimes lead to hurt or disappointment, it also paves the way for the deep, genuine connections that make life worthwhile. By being yourself, you attract the people who value you for who you truly are, rather than for the version of yourself you think they want to see. Living authentically is also an act of self-respect. When you choose vulnerability, you are affirming that your feelings, needs, and desires are valid. You are honoring your own voice, even when it shakes. Vulnerability requires you to show up fully without hiding behind perfectionism or fear of judgment. This self-honoring stance builds confidence and reinforces your belief in your own worth. Vulnerability also leads to resilience. Each time you take the risk of showing up authentically and face the discomfort that comes with it, you strengthen your ability to navigate challenges. The more you embrace vulnerability, the more you realize that discomfort is temporary, but the rewards of living authentically, freedom, joy, and connection are lasting. In the end, living a life of courage, authenticity, and self-respect means embracing discomfort as a necessary part of growth and connection. Stop being soft with yourself and others by avoiding hard truths or settling for ease over integrity. Set boundaries that protect your energy, speak your truth with kindness, and prioritize authenticity over approval. Remember, the path to a meaningful and fulfilling life is not the smoothest one, but it is the one where you show up fully as yourself, face challenges with resilience, and create deeper, more genuine connections. True strength lies in the willingness to live boldly, even when it's hard, because that is where we find our purpose, our power, and ultimately ourselves.